All right, welcome everyone to SudoRight 101. I'm author Elizabeth Ann West. I have been publishing since 2011. I'm a mighty mid-lister, and I've been using AI in my writing since November of 2021. So I've been doing this for a little bit. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to share with you actually the Sudowrite main homepage, because if you scroll down here, I find that learning how the AI actually works makes a big difference in understanding how to prompt it and how to work with it, because writing with AI is an entirely new skill. So the AI that Sudowrite uses and a lot of AI writing tools use is based off of OpenAI's GPT-3, GPT-4. There's also another company called Anthropic that has a model called Claude. And pretty much we are getting more models every single day. There's new models every day. Mosaic has some models coming out. In 6 months, if someone's watching this video, there'll probably be a dozen or more models coming out as well. So what it does is we have here starlight fell across their faces as they walked hand in hand across the floating boulevards of the city. The night was alive with the music of 1,000 stars, and the air was filled with the sweet smell of the sea. They blank. Now, you can see that it's red. And the reason why it's red is because that's signaling that the AI chose a token that only had a 7.23% chance to be that next token in the sequence. Notice I didn't say word, I said token, because the AI, just to show you here, we have, let's do this one. The model generates tokens by guessing. And I will show you with the OpenAI tokenizer. I think this is really, really important. When you understand that the AI doesn't even understand these as words. So we understand this as words, and it just broke down these words into a token. You'll see like autocomplete was 3 tokens, com, and then plete was another token. Now that's what the human sees. This is what the AI sees. All the AI sees is a bunch of numbers. So when it's making a choice about what token comes next, it's making that choice based on the training. And the training it had was where it basically read the internet and some free ebooks and everything like that. So that's how it learned. If you have this sequence of tokens or this sequence of numbers to it, it knows that the next number in the sequence most likely would be stopped, laughed, smiled, were, or walked. And it has calculated the percentage that that token would be the next one in the sequence. Crazy, right? Like that's a lot of math. That's why these are math models, and it's mathematicians and computer scientists who made these things, and then they turned them into large language models, and now we get to play with them because they can do language. Any questions about how it's choosing the next token, or any questions about this? Was this new for anyone to see how it picks what's next? Yeah, and this is important because when we start picking words, when we start, I'm going to just stop the share really fast while I log in. When we start picking words that we think are cute or unique versus clarity, you're making it 10 times harder for the AI to follow you because it's something that's not a typical pattern. You know, when we get very flowery with our commands and everything like that, and it's not a typical pattern, then the AI is having a harder time. Go ahead, Em, with your question.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, I wasn't aware of that, so thank you for sharing. But also I was wondering then, like, doesn't that mean that like it's nearly impossible to get anything like unique or creative in language when it comes to metaphors or any kind of creative output? Because basically it can only kind of reproduce what's already done before, right? Because if it's never been the next token that comes after the token before, then it would never generate that next word as a token. Did I understand?
No, because each calculation is at each individual token. So the permutations on that are like, you've got a better chance of getting struck by lightning. So it's every single token, it's making a whole new fresh calculation.
Sure, but I think maybe I'm misunderstanding, but then it's calculating on how many times it's seen this token coming after the token that was before, or
no, not how many times it's seen it. It's a calculation that it has made over what tokens could be there, and the percentage is based on the parameters you set. If you want it to be really like abstract and out there, or if you want it to be very expected. So it has to do with a lot more of the parameters that you put in your prompt, and also when you prompt it uniquely.
Okay, I'm sure I will understand it. I will just keep listening, and if I still don't understand by the end, I will get back to you. Thank you so much.
No, it's good. We'll look at that. There are some repetitions, and I'll go ahead and demo this real fast, because that's one of the things that I teach, that I taught for a long time in my AI classes. So this is Sudowrite thing, and I want to jump into the question about M real fast, but I'm just going to real fast point out your gear in the top right hand corner is one of your most important spots for a new user. It's going to tell you how many words you have left. It'll allow you to manage your membership. So you click that. Monthly, you can do any of these levels, and you can also switch your plan at any time. If you're yearly, it's a little bit more difficult, but they will help you switch that. I find that it's really helpful that you can switch between based on, you know, if you have a lot of time to write, maybe 1 month, or maybe you don't. And it'll show you how many words you have for that amount. So that's that. You don't need to see Elizabeth's credit card. There's also a tour that shows you how to work with with Sudowrite. You can change your font, your text size, your line spacing, the themes. We do have some dark themes. So if you like dark mode, there's charcoal, which is a lot easier on the eyes. Amber, forest, aurora borealis, cauldron, and charcoal are all dark themes. Moonbeam and sepia are light colored. And I'll just be in sorbet so that it's it is what I was going to say. So that this is the default. And you can also do the word count and the indent paragraphs if you don't want to see that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click new and start a new project in the top left. And I'm going to tell everyone, rename your project. So say to yourself, rename your project. If you don't rename your project, in a week's time, you will have a sea of untitled. You'll just have a bunch of cards that say untitled on your home screen, and you won't be able to find what you are working on. So this is StoryEngine 101, June 26th. And it's the 9 p.m. class. So let's talk about that question real fast that M had about how unique could it be. I'm going to actually use our write feature for this. And hold on 1 second. And so let's do something like, let's see here. What's a genre that we want to write? M, what genre do you write in?
I don't have a specific one. Mostly short stories, so it super depends.
Okay, so we'll just do a first day of school. How about that? Maisie carried her backpack, straps loose, so the bag hung low on her shoulders. She hated this part. A new house, a new school. It was always this way when her mother took new orders. Okay, so I just have this very basic intro, 35 words here. I didn't say how old Maisie is. I just say that she's in school. Now, one of the easiest ways to write with StoryEngine is to bring in your own words. You have to have at least 20 words, and you can just click this write button. Now, before I click this write button, I want to direct you to see that there's a drop down here where you can control it with write settings. So I can put my creativity at most, which means that it's going to be the most creative in following the prompts. It has the most authority to bring in new elements. If I, bring it down to least, it'll be the most expected, what would be happening next from these tokens. After reading these tokens, what it think would happen next. The best example I can give you is one night we were writing about an ogre who had a coffee shop, and we were working on an urban fantasy story, or I guess like a fantasy story. And the scene we were working on as a group was that we just wanted the ogre to get ready for the day with his coffee shop for mythical creatures. Well, when we had it on most, it started to bring in elements that it was the grand opening of the coffee shop. And we're like, no, that's not what's in the story. But the AI didn't know that. It just knew that it could deviate the most from what was in there. So we'll go ahead and put this at, we'll put it at least for the first one. And then we can have as many cards as we want, 1 through 6. I like to do 2 because I like to take bits from both words and put them together. And then you can also control the length of cards. We'll do 150 just so it's fast to validate. So once I have those details, once that I have that information in there, I just put my cursor right here and I can click write. And StoryEngine's going to give me 2 cards of 150 words that could come next. So one card, it decided that Maisie's mother was a high-ranking officer in the military, which meant they moved around a lot. It picked that up for took new orders. Now, as she walked down the sound as she was hitting the pavement, Maisie couldn't shake off the feeling of loneliness. So do we see how we got 2 different cards here? We have one where it went directly about her mother and the frequent moves. She's walking the halls, but then she saw him. He was leaning against a locker, a crooked smile on his face. He looked up as she walked by and their eyes met. So it decided to make it a romance, I guess, like a YA. And then this other one didn't really do that. This one, it just kind of jumped through her day, and now she's walking back home. So I guess it decided she was walking home from that. And now we have kind of like a thriller kind of a situation. So does everyone see how those cards are very different of what it came up with? M, are you able to see how they're very different words, and it had the exact same input? It had both cards had the same input. Does that help make sense now?
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally get that. I'm just wondering, because that must have come from somewhere. I'm just wondering how it calculates what comes next. Like, I understand that there's like an infinite number of ways it could go. Like that is completely understandable to me. The only thing that I didn't understand was going back to the tokens you talked about and it being math. I would have thought that it kind of calculates the probability of what would come next based on what it learned from like the data it has, the data it was fed. So that, yeah, sorry.
It's making the calculation based on the tokens that are there. And then how it makes those calculations is the same way you and I learned reading. So it basically read a bunch of stuff, but its directive is not to regurgitate something that it's already read. It didn't store that information. It just basically learned how the words could be used. It's kind of like teaching a kid how to play with Legos and then letting a kid build whatever they want with Legos.
Sure. No. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, could it come up with like a new metaphor?
I think so, but the hard part is like it's like nothing's new under the sun. There's no way to prove that its metaphor is unique.
I mean, yeah, but but like the difference is like it can either use like super dead metaphors that we've seen like a million times, or would it be like a little bit creative? Would it actually help me maybe go on different paths than what I usually do?
Let's try. Let's add in some bizarre metaphors. So this is the key details box. This is how you can steer the right mode. So when we're writing, I want you guys to think of it like a boat. All right. If anyone ever seen a boat try to change direction, it doesn't change on a dime. It's more of like it kind of drifts and steers in that direction. Another tool, if you wanted to turn on a dime like a car driving, you would use guided right. And I'll show that in just a second. But for this demonstration, I'm going to keep it on the least again. And I'm just going to add in some bizarre metaphors. That's the instructions. Let's see what we get in replacement of that. And this is how the best way to learn how to play with SudoRight is just to work with it and see what happens. So now we have the house looked like cardboard cutouts and the trees were like giant fingers pointing at her. Now, I don't know about you, Em, but I don't think anyone's ever done trees were giant fingers pointing at her as a common cliche. It doesn't even make sense to me.
No, that was absolutely super helpful. I didn't know that was possible. So that was really helpful to me because I've been struggling with making it give me something that I found remotely interesting, but now this makes a lot of sense to me now.
Yeah. The house was a towering behemoth with walls as high as a giraffe's neck and windows like the eyes of a curious cat. Maisie couldn't help but feel small and insignificant compared to the size of the gargantuan structure. As she walked up the steep driveway, she felt like a tiny ant crawling up the leg of a giant. So, I mean, and I guess that works if like I make her elementary school level or something like that. So one of the easiest ways to work with AI is to not, I call it don't be a T-Rex. Don't forget that your hands reach the keyboard. So a lot of times when we first start working with the AI, we get obsessed with making the AI perform exactly the way we want it to. I want this. Well, here's the thing. If you know you want this, just write it, just type it. Use the AI to help you when you get stuck. Because if you turn it into a game of, I know I want this, and I try to make the AI perform, you're going to be disappointed because it's just not programmed that way. Yep, so thank you. Okay, so at what point does SudoRight count the words as used for subscription purposes? That's a great question, Katie. So the words that I wrote in here that I typed, the 35, they don't count. The words I generate, so over here, this card was 162, this card was 163, so that's what, 325? 325, and then 163 again, and 164. So roughly about 650 words is what I would have been charged my account for these 4 cards. And that's why I like to run at least 2 cards, because I might like bits and pieces of it. Like if I was writing this, I like the fresh paint and everything. Like I love this. I've moved a lot because of the military. I want this. So we'll do this, and then I can just paste that in. So I just copied and pasted it in. If I want to bring the whole card in, let me show you how you do that. You can literally just click insert. And if you click insert, it brings the whole card in and moves everything down. So that's how you can very easily do that, or you can press the copy button. You also can thumb up or thumb down. If you get a card that's like really wonky that you just absolutely like, that did not follow it whatsoever, you can thumb it down and you can let them know, and that gives them feedback so that they can take a look on the system side and see what was going on if there was something wonky. Okay, let's do guided right now so that we can see a difference here. So I'm going to come to write settings. I want to emphasize that key details here, it's project wide. So if we'll call this Maisie, for example. If I click add new to add a new document, this is much like any other writing software that you use, like Scrivener or anything like that, Ulysses or Atticus, you can control your documents on the left-hand side by just clicking on them and moving them up and down. You can rename them. So if I'm in here, and let's do something a little bit more, let's do something nonfiction, just for kicks. Nonfiction, I will just write writing with AI is a boon for many authors who struggle with writer's block or a lack of time. Today's modern society requires people to be productive at all times, and AI can help people be creative in the short pockets. I don't know. We'll just go from there. That's 41 words. Now, if I go to my write settings are still a creative, and it still has add in some bizarre metaphors. If I don't change that, even though I changed the document, if I click write, now you'll notice that the AI will know, because it read up. If you click show more, it'll always show you what it took into consideration as the prompt. So now it's writing nonfiction because it sees in this document so far, I've been writing nonfiction. I'm not writing fiction. So short pockets of time they have. It's like having a powerful ally that can transform your ideas into fully fledged narratives in no time, like a wizard conjuring up a spell. But sometimes the AI can be more like a mischievous imp. So there's some really bizarre metaphors there. The second one here. Writing with AI is like using a hammer to paint a picture. It can get the job done, but it won't be very pretty. So I guess it has jokes. I don't think I've seen that before. So if you're writing and you're frustrated with the output, check your key, and you're using the write tool, check your key details. You may have some ghost details in here like, oh, drat, I meant that for chapter 2, not for chapter 3. I don't know why it keeps bringing in the cat. And that's because it's in your key details. Okay, now I promised about screenplay. Let's go back to Maisie, since we're writing fiction. Go ahead, Em.
I had a question to this. When it comes to these instructions that you wrote, the key details or whatever it's called, I don't recall.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice on how best to formulate these prompts? I would say, like, is there anything, like, are there any like specific words that are super helpful, or like how do you make it best understand your wishes? Yeah.
Literary terms. Number one, I have a glossary of literary terms. You don't have to use this particular book. I just use it as a prop. The AI understands literary terms. So dust off your literary terms. You'll notice that I didn't say use bizarre phrases to describe things. I said use bizarre metaphors. So I use the word metaphors instead of bizarre phrases to describe things. Bizarre phrases to describe things could be interpreted different ways, but a metaphor has a very clear definition. So number one, I would say keep them short and make the instructions like for a toddler. We call it the junior writing partner. And also understand that it works best in steps. And what I mean by that is if you ask a toddler to go get their shoes on, you don't say, go get your shoes on. We say, go get your shoes, go get your socks, put your socks on, put your shoes on. So if you start to think of the AI, it's really powerful technology, but it can only respond back a few hundred words. That's really what it's talented at doing. So you have to think of your commands or your instructions as what could it accomplish in a few hundred words. Does that help, Em?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's just one more sub question. if you have two different commands, how do you separate them? Do you put like a period, or do you put like, is there any kind of formatting thing you should do?
You can do a comma, you can do a
Okay.
period. Basically, it's a large language model, and this is one area where people who have more of like a programming background sometimes struggle. Those of us who are creative types, we actually thrive at this. Write it like you would write to a human. They trained this thing to try to interpret language the way a human would. And so the more that you can write to it like you are giving instructions to a human junior writer, one instruction at a time, the better your success will be. Oh, the book. Yeah, the copyright on this one's 2005. I don't know if it's still in print. It's just, it's an 8th edition. It's a glossary of literary terms by M.H. Abrams. So it's one of the books I had to have for a master's class on literary analysis, you know, super fun times 20 something years ago. And it's crazy to me because a lot of these terms and everything like that, they're public domain and everything. So the AI knows them, but we as humans have forgotten them. For example, discourse analysis or epithalamion, which is a poem written to celebrate a marriage. Okay, we'll test that in just a second because I want to see how that works. Go ahead, A, what's your question?
Can you use that prompt to get it to successfully mimic your own writing voice, your own tone? Like give it an example and have it keep that in consideration?
So
Does that make sense?
in this particular area of the AI of Sudowrite, so StoryEngine, there's actually a tool there that's called Match My Style that you'll put instructions for to match your style. However, in this part of Sudowrite, copy and paste in your own words. When it reads up right here, when it reads up, it can read up to 1,000 words up ahead. It tries to match what's already in there. So if you bring your words in there, its instructions are to match it and to do the instructions that you gave it. Or if you give it no instructions, it just tries to write what's next.
Okay.
And we could see that here. Remember how I had nonfiction here? I didn't tell it to match my style, but it did match my style by writing nonfiction. It's instructed to whatever writing is in the document to try to match it. All right, I want to see if this can actually work. So I'm going to go add new. Oh, I'll come back to this. I keep forgetting about the guided write, and we're way off course than what I usually teach this class. I completely changed the curriculum and flipped it for like the questions that we have. I find those classes are the best ones. So screenplay, but first let me show you guided write. So what do we want to have happen next to Miss Maisie? Does anyone have any ideas on what should happen to her? I'll leave that for a second in the thing here. There's another question about tone shift. We're not going to do tone shift is pretty much deprecated, by the way. I wouldn't use it. I would just throw that into your key details. Tone shift is a tool that came about before that came, and all it does is like if I do conflicted, so now it's going to write conflicted for what comes next in the thing, but it's limited. You only get these 8, and that's because it predates a time when we could do the key details box. So that's why I say use key details, because if you use the tone shift, you're kind of locking yourself into only 8 selections, and with key details, you can do anything you want. So yes. A, do you have another question? No. Okay, cool. All right, so any ideas? Okay, so no ideas on what happens to Maisie. So let me do this. I'm going to go to guided write. Now you can turn on suggestions. I wouldn't recommend it at this point because we have such little words to go on. It's probably going to give like some really broad suggestions for the story. It does better when there's more information, but I guess in this case it did okay. Oh, go ahead, Em.
Sorry for so many questions. You said you wouldn't recommend at this point. I was just wondering how far back the AI actually reads the story. So when would you say it does make sense, and how far back does it go?
Yeah, it can go up to 1,000 words back. So
okay.
This tool, guided write, actually came out before we had StoryEngine, before we even had projects like this. So once upon a time in the old Sudowrite days, we had to have all of our writing in just one document. So like my document would have 35,000 words in it. And then when I would click suggestions, it would read up as much as like really high, about 2,000 words or 1,000 words. And it would be able to give a pretty good suggestion about what could come next. Sometimes this doesn't always work very well if you don't have a lot of information in there. It'll start suggesting things that are really broad story elements versus like what would happen next in a scene. In this case, these aren't bad. It's something that could happen next in the scene. And I guess that works because I only have 3 lines. So there is a question about, does it charge if I don't click on them? Yes. If you click suggestions, it's going to charge you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, about 15 words. So it'll charge you about 45 words. My recommendation is, you know, write as much as you can, test the features that you want to test. Don't get click happy. If you start having problems with it, like 2 times you try to use a feature, it's not working the way you think it should, hop into Slack and ask questions because people will help you. That way you don't waste your words or anything like that, because it takes a long time to go through 90,000 words, unless you're just like mass clicking things. Let's try her mother's meeting with the principal to discuss Maisie's enrollment. Let's get some dialogue in here. Hopefully it does dialogue. And it's not, and that's okay, because I'm going to show you how we fix it. All right, so I'm going to insert this one. Maisie's mother walked into the principal's office feeling so I don't know how we know what Maisie's mother felt before this. So that doesn't really work for me. Wish she had. Maisie stood quietly beside her, clutching the straps of the backpack tightly as she eyed the intimidating figure of the principal. There we go. Now, we noticed it didn't give us any dialogue, right? That's kind of a problem. I want dialogue. So I'm going to show you another feature. We just did guided write where we gave it instructions. So that was one of the features that we had. This is the rewrite feature. So I'm going to highlight these words. Whenever you highlight, let me go down to the bottom so I can see here. Up at the top right, it'll tell you how many words you have. This is important because up to 100 words, you'll see I have this cool new menu that just popped up with rewrite, describe, expand, and visualize. Visualize, it charges you 100 words and it makes you a really kind of bad picture from Dolly. I don't recommend using it. I'll show you what it does just so that you can see it. And then you'll be like, nope, Elizabeth, I use Midjourney. Up to 75 words, we can click expand. Expand is going to take this and do exactly what it sounds like. It's going to expand it to 300 words. And actually, it's not even working right now for some reason. So, oh, there we go. Okay. That doesn't really inspire me very much. It's just a blackboard. This is Dolly. It's a image generator that OpenAI owns. So that was visualize. Expand is just going to turn this into a whole bunch of words. So we'll click expand. So it'll keep some of the words already there, and then it will just add to it. Go ahead, John Troy. John Troy's iPhone.
Unmute.
Yeah, you can unmute.
Unmute would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's the trouble having a screen and a phone. It's just that the screen speaker's not working at the moment, so I have to use the phone to talk. Otherwise, the picture's too small. So you have the screen for the picture and the phone for the sound. No, the expand only recognizes 100 words, and quite often when you do just slightly over 100, it won't show the button even. So you don't see the button that says expand. So
that's
I don't
because
know,
it can only do up to 100.
100, yeah, it's a limited 100, isn't it? Yeah, I think the others are the limit is 300 on most other commands, isn't it? It's like
so the last two, visualize and expand, are limited to 100. Describe and rewrite are limited to about 250.
Yeah. So if you try any more than 100, it will just not appear. So
yeah,
and very confusing when you're trying to find the expand button.
So if I highlight a bunch of words more than 110, you'll see my little menu only has rewrite or describe. Visualize and expand are gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was expand, and that turned those 75 words into 178 words. This can be a very helpful tool if you just want to take some words that you have and you just want that scene longer, maybe to control the pacing. This is an advanced technique that I'm about to show you that works with expand. So if you put into brackets instructions of something you want to have happen in the middle, I'm going to put add in a kid who's in trouble and the secretary talks to him. I just put it into brackets. Still at 88 words, so I'm still under. Now when I click expand, it has instructions that I put in brackets that it'll put into the scene. So let's see here. Just then a young boy came storming in, talking loudly and demanding to see the principal. The secretary scolded him and he quickly quieted down. Not bad, but we have this information here. I'm going to grab these top 2 paragraphs here because I like them. We're not going to go to emerged from the office. So I'm going to replace these paragraphs with the information that I got from expand. So yes, it will keep working it in a little bit more and everything like that if it thinks that it should. So we have the these 2 paragraphs here. Let's grab these 2 paragraphs right here where we're walking in, because there's words here that say the principal welcomed Maisie. I look for things that show me I could just say, hey, I want more dialogue here. So I have 160 words. I'm going to click rewrite, the rewrite button. And if you have a drop down, we have a couple of different presets, such as shorter, more descriptive, show not tell, more inner conflict, more intense. I'm going to click the customize button and I'm going to say rewrite to add more dialogue. And don't worry, I did not forget about the screenplay, Martin. I just needed some talking first. Now, the add more dialogue does not work if you don't have a lot of people. If you only have one person in the scene and you say add more dialogue, it won't just magically invent a character and add more dialogue. You're going to have to say like add more inner monologue or add more inner dialogue for the character. So now you'll see that it says, please have a seat. It started to bring in some conversation here. Not great because I was kind of at the max there. This would actually work better if I did probably 1 paragraph at a time. Because I already highlighted 160 words, it didn't have a lot of words to add to it before it's going to hit that 250. So I did just 1 paragraph at a time this time, and you'll see now I get a lot more dialogue. So if you work in smaller slices, you get a better result from the AI, because that's when it really just does well. Where do you think you're going? I have an appointment. He shot Maisie a glance before standing aside, waiting for his turn. So it can bring different things in here. You can conduct it like a maestro at an orchestra. You can give it instructions that boy has fire engine red hair and he shoots a snot rocket or something. Like you can control it at that level and give it instructions to make it write that prose for you. I'm going to go ahead and insert this part in here. And when you click insert, it doesn't replace it. It just moves it down. So that way you don't lose the words that you asked it to fix. So we'll have that. And then this last little bit, I'm going to turn this into more dialogue from this little part here. And there's a method to my madness, I promise. And we'll put that there. Why don't you both take a seat? We've got that. Okay. Now, the rewrite button, that customize button is very, very powerful. Martin, are you still here? Let's see.
I'm here.
Okay, good. Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. So I've highlighted 270 words. I made sure I had some dialogue. I made sure I had some information about where they are and everything. With this custom rewrite, I'm going to say rewrite to convert to screenplay format and click go. And it will start to turn it into screenplay format for you. It's not perfect, but it is a good draft from what I understand that it can get you started. And it does copy and paste into final draft and everything like that. This is what Marigold does all the time with her books. Is that helpful?
Yeah, fantastic. And it keeps the format when you enter it into final draft.
Yes, that's what she says it does.
Yes.
But definitely reach out
Fantastic.
to her on Slack because she is the queen of screenplays. So
Okay. Meredith on Slack.
Yep, Marigold.
Marigold, sorry. On
Yeah.
Slack.
So there you go. So I wanted to make sure I answered that.
Yes. Fantastic.
So we've covered rewrite, we've covered write, we've covered guided write, we've covered write settings, we covered rewrite, and visualize. So now we're going to do describe. How many of you struggle with your 5 senses when you write books? I do. Like I write historical fiction and true story. Describe helped me a lot with a ball scene, like a Meriton assembly scene that I was writing for one of the books I was writing in 2021. And I live in such an anti-tobacco society. I never thought to put tobacco into my ball scenes, but certainly in 1812, they were smoking like chimneys, right? So the AI actually was like, the smell of tobacco, and I threw it in my book. And one of my mentors, who's a New York Times bestselling author, he had checked out like the intro of my books I just published again. He was like, girl, you've gotten so much better at your descriptions. And I was like, wasn't me, it was the robot. It wasn't me. Yes, SudoRight has been around since June of 2021. So let's pick something that we want to describe. How about the principal's office? So I'm going to just highlight the phrase principal's office, and I'm going to click describe. Just so you know, if you want to save on words, there's a drop down. Anytime you see this little arrow drop down, you have options in SudoRight. So you can choose which of the 5 senses you want, and there's also a metaphorical one here. A lot of authors will turn off taste and metaphor. I like metaphor. I'm one of those authors that when I see what the AI comes up with, it spurs on more ideas for me. So I'm going to keep them all selected just so that you guys can see. And I apologize in advance that you're going to have to learn what the principal's office tasted like. And we'll let that run. So here we have the room was Spartan and most of the decorations were worn down. Only one desk with stacks of ungraded papers and the principal behind it. That doesn't make much sense. The principal's office walls were adorned with plaques and trophies for excellence in various activities. A few pictures of graduating classes. So that's cool. The principal smelled like he had been eating garlic. A metallic tang of old paper and dust. A musky smell with notes of ammonia and lemon. All right. Maisie's mother said nothing as she strode across the room right up to the desk. Maisie followed nervously. The taste of anxiety lingered in her mouth, sour and uninviting. The principal's office water tastes sweet, as if they'd been dipped from a mountain stream, cold enough to make your teeth hurt. Now, this is what, like, this is where I get excited. My ideas go ping, 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 ping. So just in writing that, now I'm starting to get some characterization for this principal. And I'm imagining this principal having like his own little water cooler because he's too bougie to drink from the water from the school has. So he gets his own water brought in at his office. And so it's special water for just the principal, you know, starting to think characterization. Go ahead, Em, you have a question.
Yeah, I was wondering because I mean that's lovely if you're kind of out of ideas or you want to get new kind of input or ideas, that's lovely, but what if maybe you know a little bit what you want but you can't quite like find a way to express it? Is there a way to maybe guide the describe a little bit more, for example, by highlighting it and then putting in brackets and say like, could you also like have to describe feature and like guide it more as to what you want the characters to be, or like what you want the office to look like? You know what I mean? Because now it's just being creative as like,
right,
this is all these things that the office could be like, but what if I know what the office should be like? I just struggle to put into words.
So if you know what the office should be like, then what you know there, you just put in the principal's office. So like, let's say I know that the principal's office smelled like burnt popcorn, but I want more details than that. Like, is that kind of like what you're aiming for?
I think what I'm aiming for is maybe like if I'm trying to describe the principal's office, I'm usually doing it for a reason, not because I think that everybody's interested in the principal's office, but it's because it's supposed to like convey something. So if I know kind of what I want the mood to be or what I want kind of to be conveyed, then maybe just having it go completely whatever might not be the right choice for me. So I was just wondering if like I'm trying to describe it, if there's a way to guide what I'm getting at.
So how about this? Principal's office that showed that the principal was a real jerk. If I explain what mood I want here, that I want the details of the principal's office that shows the principal was a real jerk, I just stick it in there and that's what I highlight. And now let's see what kinds of information we get here. He smelled of spoiled ham, smoke, and gin. Sparse. There was one seat for a visitor, a black leather chair that creaked beneath when you sat as if to say you're not welcome here. See how it changed those details?
Yeah.
So that's what you would do. Whatever you know, just put it in there, and whatever you're feeling. Like if you're describing an apartment building, but the character's lonely, you would say like it's Maisie's apartment, but she's very lonely. And you just highlight that phrase and then that'll influence the whole describe feature.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. That's great advice.
Absolutely. Listen, remember what I said at the beginning, writing with AI is a whole new creative writing skill. No one taught us this. No one explained to us how the junior writing partner, little robot, was going to understand language. And it's really fun sometimes, but it can be frustrating too if you don't know how to prompt it. Okay, so does that help answer everyone's questions about describe? Yeah, I think it is going to be, there's something in chat about how it's going to be incorporated into school education. I think sadly they're going to take too long to get it to students. There's going to be a group of students, probably about 5 years, that graduate that aren't going to be instructed on how to do this stuff, because right now academia is just really kind of against it. So I homeschool, so my daughter's learning about it now. All right, so I have one other feature to kind of start showing you guys. Well, two other ones, I guess I can show you. So two more. I'm going to go add new, and I'm going to get a new document here. And I'm going to show you this feature called first draft. It says generate a first draft. Now you only have this available when you create a new document. It's not there all the time because it's going to overwrite what's in the document. So if it was there all the time, you would overwrite what you had, and then you would be very upset. At least I would. So when you click generate a first document, a first draft, it gives you some information and some examples. I'm going to tell you right away that although it could do a nonfiction article, this thing is really hard coded for fiction. So I would recommend using it most often for fiction. So you can give it some instructions. So we'll stick with Maisie in her first day of school. Write me a opening scene, or let's make it paranormal, a paranormal YA about Maisie starting her first day of school at a new middle school. Her mother is military, and this school is going to be unlike any other school Maisie has been at. It's a secret school that has monsters disguised as humans. There we go. So if I give it that information, I don't give it any information about how I want it to write. Oh, I can actually tell it, make this first person point of view Maisie. Now you'll notice I went in all caps, right? That's for two reasons. Number one, for the human, that's me. It's helpful for me when I'm writing prompts, when I make certain parts of it first, all caps, especially if it's something that I might change later for like different versions. So if I'm writing from different point of views, I'll make it all caps so I can see it right away. It also helps the AI, believe it or not. If you ask the artificial intelligence, if you ask in ChatGPT or OpenAI Playground or something, what does punctuation, what does all caps mean to you? It'll say that it means emphasis. It understands caps to mean emphasis, like you're yelling at it. So we'll click go. And what first draft can do is literally what it says. It'll just write you a first draft. Now, it only knows the information you put in the box. It doesn't know the information that's in these other documents. Each document in a project is siloed, so it doesn't know. So we have a middle school. I stood there, my suitcase in one hand and my backpack in the other. Wait, why a suitcase? I guess it's a boarding school. Took a deep breath. I had to be brave. I had to do this. Welcome to Blackwood Middle School, home of the wolves. I gulped. That sign seemed so ominous. What kind of school was this? Walking faster, try to get away from the pictures. Made it to their homeroom. All the other students were there. They all seemed to be talking to each other and laughing like they all knew each other. I felt so small in that room. I wanted to be invisible. Teacher, Mr. Turner. So I got 560 words. And basically with the first draft, you can use all of your tools that you have before. If I don't like this, I want to rewrite it. I could rewrite it to make it show, not tell, click go, and you can do all those things all over again, or you can type for yourself. I don't mean to not show typing for yourself. It's just, this is an hour-long class, so we have to be quick. So that's why I show mostly the AI tools. Any questions about first draft? Go ahead, David.
Can you discuss a little bit about your organization when you do you separate these into chapters? And you said the chapters don't look back, or do you do? I can't imagine you're doing one ginormous document, but yeah, just talk about your organization thoughts process for how you use this.
So my old process was all one big document, and my older documents still have that because I'm too lazy to separate them out, and that was because projects didn't exist yet. Now when I run it, so I give you a good example. Let me go to this. The 2-hour writing challenge here. I was doing a 2-hour writing challenge with another group. So here you go. I have chapter 1 and then all the different ways, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. The most accurate and best prose has to do with StoryEngine. I'm just going to give you guys a sneak peek at this. This is what's next. So once you learn StoryWrite 101, you get to move up to StoryEngine. You can literally give it beats, and then you can make it run with different models. And we have most accurate and best prose. So I like to run them with both, and then I label them. And then I use OpenAI Playground to Kitbash them together. So AI deep dive, I do a big one, but this is how I usually organize. And then I just label everything, and I like to keep everything separate so that I can go find it again. And then I organize it for a final document. Like if I'm ready to publish it, I use Vellum to publish for my ebooks. But before that, I use Google Docs. I just have a Google Doc that has all the chapters in there once it's finalized.
But I don't want to take up everybody's time, but do you copy this out into like I would use Word or whatever?
Yeah,
right? Google
exactly.
Doc. Yeah, just port it out to there, and then you clean it up there.
Actually, I usually clean it up in here.
Oh, you
So
clean it up in here.
yeah, I clean it up because if I get stuck when I'm cleaning it up, I've got tools at my disposal to like describe something and everything. I mean, that's the beauty. Really and truly, I use StoryEngine to generate a lot, and then I use SudoRight 101 tools to like fix it, make it work and everything. There's videos on YouTube on SudoRight. There's some lives that show me writing live. And then this weekend, I'm actually writing live on YouTube as well. I'm going to be doing 50,000 words this weekend, all in one go. I'm going to write a whole novel. That's what I'm doing.
When is the StoryEngine class? You said it was Wednesday?
There are actually multiple times. You can see them on Luma, but I personally
Okay.
teach Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning and Friday at 10 a.m. So on Friday, we'll be teaching at 10 a.m. And then at 1 p.m. that day, I'll be moving over to YouTube and I'll be writing live. So I'll be inviting everyone from that class over to that if they want to. The link is also in the Slack chat. Like it's just my Future Fiction Academy channel that I'm writing live on. And I'll be using a bunch of different AI tools, including Sudowrite, to do it. Go ahead, A.
Oh, thank you. So I'm sorry, I'm confused. So if you use the first draft and then it writes you that nice little lovely 560 words, and then you have it do a little bit more, and then you want to move on to a next chapter, is it not going to remember what happened in the previous chapter?
No, it won't.
So how do you make it build?
You do it.
So you say in the last chapter, this happened. And so this should happen in this chapter.
You don't even say in the last chapter, this happened. You only give it the information it needs to know about that last chapter. You basically tell it to write the second chapter, basically in isolation of the first one. Like I said, these are brand new writing skills. I know, it's a brand new world of writing skills. We do this, StoryEngine helps you do that. StoryEngine helps to I'll go back just to show, this is a Regency romance that I was working on. StoryEngine, you can put a brain dump, you can have a synopsis. It'll also generate all of these for you. And then I have a whole outline. So this one is able to write the beats for chapter 1, and it can know what's going to happen in other chapters, and it can actually do other chapters. So when it did chapter 3, it read the outline, so it knew what happened in chapter 1 and 2 before it wrote the beats for chapter 3. But this is learn SudoRight 101, and then when you move on to StoryEngine, it's going to work like a song for you. So it's
one
really
quick
fast.
follow-up. So in theory, you could put like a half-written novel in and the outline for it.
Just the
in StoryEngine.
You only need the outline for it. You don't need those other chapters. They don't read each other. They only read the outline.
Okay. And then you can still use the first ones if you want to use them, but it's not relevant to the AI side of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's because of the context window. So AI right now, we just got a brand new model like 2 weeks ago called 3.516K, which means it has a token of window of 16,000 tokens that it can read. But it writes not as good as GPT-4. GPT-4 only has a context of 8,000 tokens. Now, what is a token? 4 characters. So it works out to being about 1,000 tokens is about 750 words. So an 8K window is about 5,000 words. 16K windows, 10,000 words. So the AI is slowly getting to where it can read a lot more words. The problem is it can't write more. Just because it can read 10,000 words, it can't write 10,000 words at one go. It's still only going to write you a few hundred words. So it's this mismatch of how much it can read versus how much it can write.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So interesting.
And to answer your question, Nina, about Kitbash, I use OpenAI Playground to Kitbash. And if you search Kitbash and ChatGPT on YouTube, you'll see my videos on that. So there's free videos on that to show you how to Kitbash stuff in OpenAI Playground. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to this AI stuff. I play with it all day, every day, nonstop. That's what I do. Okay. So that was first draft. Now I know we're going to go a little bit over 10 o'clock, and I apologize, but I want to show you this next tool that will blow your mind a little bit. This is the Canvas tool right here. Now Canvas predated StoryEngine. So they built this thing in January, and I mentioned that because it doesn't quite integrate with StoryEngine. So StoryEngine didn't come out until April, and I was still on the Sudowrite team when we did that and everything like that. So Canvas came out in January. I'm going to click Canvas. Every single one of your projects has a canvas, And Canvas is just a free form. It can be a free form brainstorming tool. So you can click a card and you can go Maisie's first day at a monster high school or middle school as a human goes horribly wrong. And if I don't know what comes next, or I'm just kind of like, I don't know, generate more like this, it'll read that card and it can come up with some other cards for me. Now, again, I'm generating words. So every time you generate, it charges against your quota. So she discovers a group of monsters, scared something in the school. She must find out what it is in order to make the school more bearable. Or yeah, I don't like any of these. So I'm just going to highlight and delete those. You also can click the plus sign, which is a little bit different. The coding on these are a little bit slightly different. Generate more like this tries to do more like that card. This one covers a secret monster club that she's forbidden to join, but decides to join it anyway. So you can come up with, it tries to come up with like what could happen next in the story. It works better if you have more than one card. Obviously, if I have another card here and I'm going to say, let's see, what would happen in homeroom? She's Maisie. Maisie is pretty sure she met a vampire because he sniffed her neck and guessed her blood type. And now if I plus, it has more information to go on. So now we'll get probably some richer information here. Feeling a bit shaken about the encounter of homeroom, decides to investigate. She tracks down the vampire, discovers the vampire is an immortal being. So you can start building from there. This is the freeform tool. It also has the visualize, which means it'll make those really haunting photos from Dolly if you want for 100 words. Sometimes they're comical in this one. There we go. There's Maisie, I guess, being sniffed at by a vampire in middle school. Not the greatest. This middle one just puts a label so that you can label the cards. Let's see, Elizabeth, grab it. There we go. So if I go Vamp Middle School, if that's the project, I can zoom out so I can have a bunch of different projects. I can highlight all of these and move them around as a group. So I could just brainstorm a bunch of different stuff. One limitation about this tool is that it doesn't export very well to a document or anything. So when you're using the freeform tool, it's cool if you want to have the cards to move around and have some AI help for generating the index cards, but you can't like one click and export. You have to copy and paste the individual cards. Okay, I'm going to delete those and zoom in, back in. Now this 1, 2, 3 outline tool, before I go to that, any questions about the freeform tools or the freeform cards?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to click outline and it's going to give me a whole outline. So now these cards are programmed cards for various outline formats. How do you get it into SudoRight? So with the freeform cards, you have to manually copy and paste into some other place and bring them into SudoRight. This one has the ability, the 1, 2, 3 tool, the outline tool. If you click the 3 dots, you can just copy the entire outline to your clipboard, and we're going to do that. So we'll use the hero's journey, but just so you know, we have the hero's journey, Hollywood Beats, story circle, and romance outline. Hollywood Beats is very similar to Save the Cat, but it is coded for AI. Quite frankly, I think it's terrible for writing novels, and I'll tell you why. The AI doesn't understand, like Fun and Games, for example, should be 6 or 7 scenes. It doesn't understand the percentages that each of the components are. So it's just going to give you those components like they're all equal, and you may have to tweak it. Also, Save the Cat, it starts off with opening introduction, right? The opening scene of the character in their normal day. A lot of times in novels, that's too slow. You want to be starting right in media res. You want to be starting in the action of things. So for those who love Save the Cat, there is Hollywood Beats, but as a professional author, I don't like it. Romance outline, I wrote the beats for this one. It is a combination of many of the most popular romance outlines out there. But again, it's tweaked for AI. And what I mean by that is that it is specifically coded that it knows a romance story is between characters. So this outline can handle menage, it can handle reverse harem, it can handle LGBTQ, it can handle aliens, it can handle whatever advanced avant-garde romance that you throw at it. That's the new trope. You can throw that in there and it will give you an outline for that. And that was important to me because I know the romance writers often get kind of left in the cold, and we write some really good, interesting stuff. Who doesn't want, one night I wrote about getting abducted by an alien and she didn't spill her beer. Nope, she did not. She did not spill her beer as she was tractored up to the aliens. All right, so let's use Hero's Journey for our Maisie girl at Monster Middle School. And that's what I'm going to put in here. I'm just going to put Maisie, who moves a lot because her mother is military, starts at a new middle school where she believes there's real monsters. This should be a thriller and not paranormal. Actually, we could make it like a comedic paranormal. This should be a comedic paranormal YA story. So I'll just give it that information. Does anyone else have any other information we want in our Maisie girl story? So in mystery, you can use Save the Cat, but we have not actually built outlines for mystery quite yet. Mystery can be done though with the StoryEngine. In StoryEngine, you can actually bring your own outline in. All right, nothing else for Maisie? Does anyone want some crazy details? I know before we had a vampire. Do we want the vampire in there? There's a vampire. What other monsters do we want to have here? And a swamp thing, a swamp creature. Put that in there. And add more monsters. Just give it that instructions. And now I'll click generate the full outline. And what it will do is it will fill in these different boxes here. The ordinary world, the call to adventure, refusal of the call, meeting the mentor, all that cool stuff. And we'll see what it does. It does take it a little bit. It'll fill it up here because it's running a bunch of different calls to the AI and figuring out what to put in all of these boxes. If you already have something in the box, you can't, like, if you already have some ideas that you want, you need to put it into this box here. You can't put it into here and click generate, it'll overwrite it. So if you know, like part 3, the refusal of the call happens when she's at like cheerleading practice, you would write that into the hero's journey. You would write that into this box here, all of your desires for specific topics that you want in the story. And you can literally just say part 3, refusal of the call. At cheerleading practice, Maisie blows off the janitor who tries to tell her that she's the only human to break the curse on the Monster Middle School or something. Go ahead, Menon.
Is there a maximum of words we have to put in the outline, or a minimum?
This box can handle 1,500 characters.
1,500, thank you.
Yep, the name of this feature is the outline tool. You get to it by any project. You click canvas, and then it's the 1, 2, 3 outline at the bottom for Carrie in chat here. All right, so here we go. Maisie's a military kid who has to move a lot. This time, she finds herself starting at a new middle school where she's convinced has real monsters living in it. She loves to read and is especially fond of paranormal YA literature. Okay, it's a little fourth wall, but whatever. She's tested when she hears a rumor about a vampire living in the school basement. This begins her journey, and she realizes that if she wants the truth, she must venture down in the basement herself and investigate. If she refuses, she'll never learn the truth and will remain an outsider in her new school. Okay, so I'm immediately like, this could be a bullying scene where they're trying to get her to go down to the basement. She's afraid of what's down in the basement. She won't be able to handle what she finds. She sees a new student named Sal at her school and strikes up a conversation. Sal is a kindred spirit. Takes into the unknown, musters up the courage to go into the basement. She's met with a strange array of creatures living in the school basement, including a vampire, a swamp creature, and a host of other monsters. So it literally lifted that from what I have here, where I was like, add more monsters. So it just added that there. She's unsure how to approach them. And so it's just going to give you the very basics of an outline here. Now, obviously, we might want changes. So if we don't like this one, I can just delete it and I can make a change. Let's say here, the new student Sal. Let's change it to Sal encourages. Sal used to go to the school and transferred back. She knows the monsters are real, but they're nice. So when I filled that in, now when it does crossing the threshold, it's going to take into consideration what I put on that card. So emboldened by her new friendship, she takes a deep breath and opens the door. And so now there's a hostile gang of monsters. Wait a minute. That does not work. Try it again. We said the monsters are nice. Maybe it decided to reject that. I don't know. You never know what the AI is thinking. Okay, so now it says ready to follow Sal's advice and start her journey into the basement. She gathers the courage and tiptoes down the stairs, past the janitor's office, into a long hallway. Maisie's heart's racing and she takes hesitant steps forward. She finds a glowing chamber filled with mysterious creatures. And then she finds out that they're not the enemy. So you also can click generate options for this card, and just like the other tool, so it's reading this card and it's read the entire outline and it's coming up with other ideas. If there is a, like this one, if I like this one, because it picked up that there was the chamber, because the previous one said there was a glowing chamber. So let's grab this second one. If I want to replace part 6 with this one, I hover over the card I want to change. It'll get that dotted line. When I let go with my mouse, like Freaky Friday, they just switch places. I'll show it again. If I have a card that I want to change places, I just hover over one that I want to change, let go, and they'll switch places. I actually like this caretaker idea. So now we have this caretaker character, but they're not anywhere else in the outline. And so this is where I would delete and delete. And if I click fill me in, it's going to bring this caretaker character into in the cursed wood. It will bring details into it if you regenerate the cards after you've made changes to the cards. Go ahead, Menon.
When you delete those cards, is there a way to get them back if you delete them
No.
by mistake or something?
No, there's no way to get them back. So if you really
Don't
love them,
click back.
go to the bottom.
Okay.
It does charge you words for the cards that it generates. Now, personally, I don't find this to be a fantastic way to work with the outline necessarily. I mean, it's great for if I want to generate different ideas. If you click the 3 dots, you can copy the entire outline to your clipboard. You can take it to Word. You can take it wherever. I'm going to click back to my project. And now I'll create a new document. And if I paste it in here, now it's here, and I'll just rename this outline by just double clicking on the document. And now I have this entire outline here that's 877 words, and I can start playing with it. Let me go check the chat real fast. Any way to reverse engineer an outline already written to get plot and subplot ideas? So what I would do is I would bring that outline into here, Nina. And so, like, let's pretend this was the outline and I wanted some subplot ideas. What I would do is I would grab down here, because it can read all of this. This is kind of another advanced way. What are some subplot ideas that could be added to the above story? And I'm going to go to auto, and my write settings, I'm going to go to 250 words. I'm going to bring the creativity as high as I can, because I'm all ears. And so what I've done is so the prompt, this is prompt. The prompt was the whole outline. See, when I said it could read up to 1,000 words, everyone, it read all of what was in there for the outline. And then it read my little question here. What are some subplot ideas that could be added to the story? And it's got it right here. Maisie develops a crush on a boy. She's deployed overseas, has to deal with a group of bullies, academic challenges. Now, it can't really make the changes to the outline. Like I can't, like in ChatGPT, say rewrite the outline to add this in here. So what I could do is if I go, okay, I want this one, a crush on a boy. Let's do this one. I'll bring this in here. And now I can go, what are some scenes that will put in the subplot, and where do they go in the outline? And again, if I click write, it's reading up the whole thing again, and I'm going to go. So here's scene 1, and inserted between part 1 and part 2, it's telling me where to put these in the actual outline so that you can get that subplot. Go ahead, Em.
How does it know that this is kind of a command that I put within my writing? I mean, how does it distinguish between, I don't know, this being a command and it being like a rhetorical question within the story, I guess?
Because it wouldn't make sense that this is a rhetorical question in the story.
Okay.
Yeah, it
That's
literally
very
is just smart. Like it's going to read it and go, what does this mean?
Right.
It basically, the AI knew you gave it an outline, and then there was a question at the end, like, what are some subplot ideas that could be added to the above story? And it's like, oh, well, she wants me to give you subplot ideas for the story up here. It's that smart.
Lovely. Okay, thank you.
And this is the part that the programmers struggle with sometimes, because they're like, but how can you, because it's how I would ask a human. It's what I would give a human. I would say, read this. Now, what are some ideas? And that's literally the programming to work with AI, is just how would you ask a human in very simple terms. and use literary terms. Notice we did subplot ideas. If we just ask, let's just for giggles, and I'm going to take out the subplot just so that it's not colored by that either. What are some more ideas for the story? If I just ask that question, I didn't specifically ask for a subplot. Let's see how it interprets that, because it's going to interpret it differently. So now it interprets it as more chapters you want to add. See the difference between asking for subplot ideas versus asking more ideas for the story. More ideas for the story, the AI thought, I just want more chapters. But if I actually put that literary term of subplot, it understood subplot. And I'll show that again. What are some more ideas for subplots for the story? And if I click that one and I click write, now it's not going to give us a bunch of part 13s. It's giving us actual subplot ideas that could be worked into it. So it's literally a difference of 2 words that can make the difference of your instructions or your commands. So you always don't, you want to look, if something's not working right, go to Slack. But if something's not working right and you can't get to Slack, or if someone's not answering you, check to see if you're vague. Check to see if there's multiple ways that could be that your words could be interpreted. And the more specific you can get your commands, like asking for subplots versus asking for new ideas, that can make the difference between what you get out of the AI and what you don't. Does that help, Em?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yep, sure, Benita. So if you go to Canvas, the outline tool is right here with the 1, 2, 3 outline. And then when we want to, once we're done and we want to copy and paste it, we just click the 3 dots and we copy the outline to the clipboard, and then we can go back in the top right back to our project and we can paste that in. Did that help? Yep. All right. That is SudoRight 101. You guys are armed and dangerous, ready to write with a bunch of AI. Any other questions? Go ahead, Em.
Yeah, it's a question. I saved it for the end because I don't know if everybody's interested, but I'm having issues, or like I'm struggling being able to write in a different language. Is there some resources you could point me to? Because I find it quite easily to handle in English, but I've had trouble with other languages.
It doesn't write in other languages very well. A lot of people do the rewrite and tell it to write into a different language. The problem is that the prompting on all the back end is in English. So
Right.
even when you are writing, if you have a long passage and you write in like French, I don't speak French. So are you mixing other languages, or you're already in that language?
No, English is my second language, but I write in both.
What is the other language that you write in?
German.
German?
Yeah. So would it be then feasible to input the things I've already written in German and then write the prompts in English, but tell it to write in German in the prompt?
No, you can put the prompts in German and it'll follow it and tell it to write in German. So the more German that's there's German already in here. I don't know what this says. I think one of those words means girl in there.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, Mädchen is girl.
What is this one? That's a cool word. I recognize toast. Somebody saw toast. What is Klassenzimmer? Is it class?
It's a classroom.
Classroom.
Yeah.
My maiden name is Schilling, SCH, but no, I don't speak German. My sister does. I took 4 years of Latin. Well, okay, it really likes writing in German. My goodness. Okay, if you ever are running and you want it to stop, just press escape and it'll stop running.
Okay.
So now when I highlight this, if I just click rewrite, show don't tell, and I click go, it may do English because all the prompting is in English, but actually it's actually working fine, I think, in German, I guess. I don't know if that's really.
The issue with this is I feel like it wrote in English and then it translated it. It's not German. It's like a Google Translate of from English to German.
Oh yeah, no, that's really the level that it's going to probably write at,
right.
Unless you write native German and the German, like it has a style of native German to pick up off of.
Right. So at this stage, it's best to just write in English, probably.
Yeah, well, I mean, truthfully, the English that it writes is very robotic English. If we wanted to write in like natural flowy English and stuff like if I come back here to Maisie, this original, like I wrote this, so it knew that. But when I asked it for like the first draft, My mom dropped me off at Blackwood Middle School at exactly 8:15 a.m. with a kiss on my forehead and a gentle pat at my shoulder, the way she always did when she was saying goodbye. This is very classic AI to me. Like I could tell it right away because it has a cadence of da 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 da. It always puts 4 things. There is no native English speaker who's writing this sentence with 4 things in it to start off a book.
No,
know what
for
I mean?
sure, but it is grammatically correct. Like it does make like this it is, and the German sentence weren't formed in a like good grammatical structure. So
This would actually be called a run-on sentence. Like every teacher would mark this up and say this should be 2 sentences.
sure, but there's no mistake in the language itself.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a stylistic thing maybe, but in the German version there's like errors in there.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's going to have like the Google Translate errors.
Yeah. But that's okay. I think I already got my answer. Thank you so much for
Yep,
exploring that.
sorry. It can't do better
Hello?
German. I
Hello?
promise. Oh yeah, I also promised I got to do lit RPG as well, but what is your question?
I have a question as well. And
Sure,
it
sure.
now that you talk about foreign languages. Okay, so what about like accent? So I have a gal who's Swedish in my story, and she is going to be going out. Well, you would, to make it sound more authentic, of course, you could type her responses in English, but it would have to be done with a Swedish accent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it can get tricky to do those things, but if I was to grab right here the secretary, I can say rewrite. And when I'm writing this, when you're writing in StoryEngine, you can actually say a specific character speaks with a Swedish accent, and it'll take that into consideration for dialogue. That's
Oh, hey,
StoryEngine.
that's
And
really cool.
in this tool, I would just say customize rewrite to give the secretary a Swedish, oh, sorry. I had another meeting that was ending. Give the secretary a Swedish accent. So that was the rewrite to give the secretary. What do you think you're, and it says Tink, you are doing. You need
Okay,
to, yeah.
cool.
So it's going to take it it could take it somewhat to that comical level. So you'll probably want to scale it back a bit.
Okay, so that would be the rewrite. Okay, now this is a really basic, probably easy question, but I don't know because I just started with this, experimenting with it.
Mhm.
So when I type my first little paragraph, how do I do I copy and paste that and put that on a Google Docs?
Yeah.
Or do I or do we keep, I mean, how do you transfer it from the spot, your clipboard there to your actual work? So you just copy and paste everything?
Oh yeah. And actually let me undo that. If I like this, because it's 270 words, I'm on a Mac, so I press Command A. If you're on a PC, you would press Control A, which means select all. I literally just put my cursor in this window here, and I've selected all. You also can put your cursor here and right click and select all, and it'll select all. And then you can right click and click copy, or I do Command C. I do my shortcuts, but you can use just right clicks, and you just copy it, and then you go somewhere else. If I come over to the tokenizer, for example, I can paste it right in. And now it's pasted in. So copy paste works.
Okay, I was just curious, because I didn't know how to do that. The other thing is, okay, so wasn't there something called like a big explain, or what was it? It basically, it acted like it could write your whole book for you. Is that what we're talking about right
That's
now?
StoryEngine. StoryEngine
Yeah.
is another tool. So I teach that class on Wednesday and Friday mornings. So Wednesday mornings 8 a.m. and Fridays 10 a.m. But there's other classes too for StoryEngine 101. I just won't teach them at other times.
Okay, I'll have to participate in that.
Yep,
Okay,
you can
so
sign up
how
for
is
those
that? What is the basic difference between the two?
Well, SudoRight 101 is to teach you all these, I call them laser tools. Pew, pew. These are SudoRight 101 tools. This allows you to work at a level of like, I'm going to highlight this one word here, and it's going to give me a bunch of different word suggestions. And this doesn't charge you any words, by the way. This is a free tool right here. It's just a thesaurus. If you click on a word, it can give you 27 more, and you can go eluded and double click and it changes it. So this allows you to work at like one word or one paragraph or one sentence or whatever. StoryEngine StoryEngine is the whole kit and caboodle. If you come to StoryEngine, you don't work one word. You give it instructions, and it literally just writes it for you. So let me help my lit RPG friend out real fast by showing that for SudoRight, showing StoryEngine at the same time. So my lit RPG friend is still here. I'm going to hop into StoryEngine. I'm sorry you've waited so patiently. And this is just a very basic. This is not going to be great, guys. So I'm going to tell the genre is lit RPG. I want it to be, let's see here, action based, add in stats for the character. And these other boxes, you'd want to fill them in, but they're optional. I'm going to just do the bare minimum that you have to do to make this thing work. Introduction, chapter 1, Maisie starts at a new middle school, and during computer lab, she is sucked into a video game. That's a monster world. Okay.
Okay.
Forgive me that this is a terrible lit RPG premise, Charles. I do know about the genre, but I don't know that much about the genre, and I'm just trying to give a demo. And I'll put in here, she will be a basic character to start. Add her stats as she goes. Good, we have that. I'm going to click generate, and it's going to generate the beats for me. It really has very little information, so I don't expect it to have a lot of great detail. And that's actually bad beats. Your beats should be very detailed beats. It should be what happens in the plot plus the instructions to write it. That would fill at least 100 to 200 words. And when this thing debuted, my Twitter blew up. People were not happy. So here she's at the computer lab, sucked into the video game. So we're not into the video game until beat 4, and then basic ones describe the game mechanics, exploring the monster world, various creatures, basic abilities, facing challenges, continuing her journey to see what lies ahead. So I'm actually going to click best prose, and I'm just going to click go because it's one of the faster ones with good writing. Fastest is the fastest. So this 1-2 means that it's running 1-2 right here. And we kind of already have a problem here because it's deciding that she's in the computer lab, and then she's already got stats. So she's already in it, 30% of the students turn to stare at Maisie. Oh dear. And it keeps going. Yeah, this is not 30% action. This is prompt leakage. It shouldn't be doing that. Okay, pause and stop. We're going to just delete this real fast. Yeah, it's not usually that bad. It's just create chapter. Let me copy the beats over. I'll run it with a different model. Let me run it with fastest, and we'll generate fastest. Fastest is ChatGPT 3.5. See, now she's not already in the game. So it understands that she's, I don't know, my computer just did something weird. Before Miss Williams could respond, a bright light burst forth on the screen, engulfing Maisie in its glow. Welcome to the game world. You've been selected to participate in this adventure. Okay. Great. Let's see here. She saw jagged rocks, showing her health and mana levels. She noticed that she had no points in strength or agility, which meant she was weak and slow. Great, just what I needed, a handicap. Red, it snarled at her. Okay, it's showtime. The creature lunged at her. Wow, only one way to come out. Monster world. Welcome to the game. Don't worry, you're not alone. You've been chosen to embark on a quest that will test your skills and abilities. What skills and abilities? I don't have any. So again, like I said, it doesn't really keep your stats for you. You're going to have to do that. But if you do that, like it's got level up because she leveled up. So it can kind of bring some elements in there. If you actually put those details into your outline and everything like that, it can bring them over. It just can't necessarily do the math.
Did you realize the fastest just kicked you almost 2,500 words? We just realized that with Nicole during the week.
Yeah, it's monster 12 points. So there's 2,500 words. Experience gain 20. Nice, she thought. Strength. So it is actually doing a stats check, and it's putting her strengths in. So, but then you'd want to keep track of those because it's not going to be able to keep track of those throughout the like this chapter doesn't talk to the next chapter. So you would still have to keep track of the numbers. You'd have to update your outline as the character got, or your character sheet. Actually, there is actually a space for characters. So what you could do is as Maisie was leveling up, before you run your next chapter, you could have Maisie level up here in the character box, and it would add those. All right.
The genre and the style again. Oh.
Huh?
I wanted to take a picture of the genre and the style, what you wrote down.
Oh, it's just lit RPG, action-based add-in stats for the character. It's just lit RPG.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Em.
Sorry, I will be there for the StoryEngine one, but I have a quick question because it just popped in my head. So basically, if you generate a chapter in the StoryEngine, then after you've already generated your first chapter, then you can go back and add and edit the characters according to what they should behave like in the progression of the story.
Yes.
Oh, that makes much more sense now. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, that's what I do. It's an advanced tip. Not everybody does it. I've been the one that's been crazy, like, guys, change your character based on the chapters. And I'm like, so you have a character list for each chapter? And I'm like, yes. Because I like to control things, but that's me.
Yeah, because up to now I've always tried to tell the AI what's gonna happen that the reader doesn't know yet, so they take it into consideration. But it's much more feasible to write where the character is at that point.
Yeah, don't do it. The best practice there is to actually not tell the AI what it doesn't need to know, because if it doesn't need to know it, it won't reveal it. Otherwise, it turns into pink elephant syndrome, and it's like you say, don't talk about the pink elephant, and it's like, there's a pink elephant I can't talk about. It's like, no, I said don't talk about the pink elephant. And it was like, but there's a pink elephant I can't talk about. The easiest thing is to not even mention the pink elephant to the AI, because it's not able to go, I can't talk about the pink elephant. That's me not talking about the pink elephant. The other thing I will tell you is I think a beginner natural reaction is to go, don't do blank. The AI doesn't always understand don't do blank. It responds much better with positive reinforcement and positive commands. So for example, if you say, don't talk about the sun, because we have a problem with it doing that, you would want to say note the passing of time only with the nature of trees and flowers around it. So basically you give it a positive reinforcement of how it needs to do a task rather than telling it not to do a task, because it's not always smart enough to understand that it's not supposed to do the task and understand what the opposite of it is. So you need to help it by giving it what the opposite is in a command, and then it can follow that. It's very obedient if you give it a command that it can follow. It's not very obedient if you tell it don't do the thing and you don't tell it what you want it to do. It doesn't always make that leap of logic. Yes, like you train your dog, very much. I say toddler, but dog works too. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I'm sorry this was till 10:30, but this is StoryRight 101, although it kind of went a little advanced because you had me at the helm. Thank you so much for coming. And in July, I'll be teaching Mondays and Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So that'll be my new time slot. But there's a lot of great instructors who are coming up who are going to be teaching, and they have really unique ways of looking at the AI as well. And don't forget to join the Slack. I'm in Slack as Elizabeth Ann West, so I can answer questions there too. All right. Thank you and have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.